Good afternoon, everybody. I hope we're all enjoying the wonderful British sunshine. I'm sure there's been plenty of ad hoc withdrawal requests over the weekend for portable air conditioning units for someone who's not very good at dealing with the sun. It's been nice and challenging at the same time. However, thank you for joining me today. We're going to explore what happens to your clients after exit. We're not talking about the due diligence, the deal itself, the numbers. We're talking about the practical elements post any deal, the elements that protect your legacy, ensure that clients remain with the business long term, which obviously affects ultimately your earnout and the number of years. We want happy clients, happy staff, to provide that continuity over time. The real worry, when I've spoken to a lot of vendors over time, and these questions come up a lot. Will the clients still feel looked after I've joined a new business, after I'm gone? You've known these clients 10, 20, sometimes 30 years, their kids' names, they've become friends. You want to be able to walk down the local village, the supermarket, the golf club, and look these people in the eyes, not having to avoid them, thinking that you've sold them down the river once you've left them to a new organization. How do you explain the change? You don't want to drop a sort of a bombshell, but you don't want to undersell what's happening. There's a right way to have those conversations. Will the new firm or the firm you're selling to make changes overnight? Most consolidators, would move clients to a in-house proposition, an in-house solution. That's change. That's not the best approach for integration, and we do it differently. And will my reputation survive? That's about finding the right firm who has the same values as you. Why does this matter? Again, this is your legacy. This is the trust you've built up with your clients, sometimes over 10, 20, 30 years. That trust doesn't just transfer. It has to be designed and structured. This is the best possible outcome for retention. If the client leaves, it's bad for you, but it's also bad for Absolute, the acquirer. We want to make sure that those clients are here for the long term. They feel valued and they feel taken through a journey that is designed to protect your legacy and provide that continuity. There are two ways that this typically goes. There's what we see, the traditional consolidation route. These would be your vertically integrated firms, independent with a small I. There's forced change, there's big increases in fees. That the client might as well start again in that instance. If the platforms change, the advisors change very quickly, fees have gone up, they might as well explore the market and look at another advisor. That makes retention difficult. It might get you a bigger price for your business, but ultimately it doesn't necessarily make retention the way we would like. The Absolute way, we have a big focus on independence. We want to make sure that independence is preserved. There's no mandated change to a new investment solution. We want those local connections. The sponsorship of the under-11s local football team, we want that maintained because that's what you've done over those years. Will there be change? Yes, there will be change, but the change will be gradual and only done once the clients, your staff, and advisors are embedded and comfortable with the new proposition. Clients want to feel reassured and not restructured, making sure that trust maintains moving through any form of acquisition or process. So what's Absolute's starting principle? It's the same experience for the client, but better, ensuring that we keep those local connections, the professional connections. It's the same advisor sat in the first annual review meeting. They still work with the same accountant, the same solicitors, the introducers you've worked with. They still get the same advice and the same humans behind it. The people who are part of your office that have helped you over the years to deliver that service. We want that continuity as well. But we want better technology behind the scenes to increase efficiency. We want to increase the level of support through extra admin support, paraplanning. We want to automate the laborious processes, again, freeing up your time to deal with those clients and reassure them as part of any transaction as to how this works. If we look at the first year as a timeline, these are the 6 typical steps, the big things that touch the client. Yes, there will be a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that the client won't see, but ultimately we want you to be informed as to what touches the client so you can reassure them and take them through this process. Either before any transaction happens, you want to be able to give them an outline of what that looks like, or following any transaction happens, you want to be informed so you can have that open and honest conversation with any clients that feel particularly nervous. So if we look at when the deal completes, that typically means that letters go out. So this is post any change of control, exchange, completion. 2 letters go out. One goes out from your existing business, explaining the change, reassurance. Both letters essentially say the same thing, the one that goes from Absolute. But it's reassuring them that change is going to be minimal, all the benefits of joining a bigger firm, or the infrastructure, the resources. But it's ensuring that it's the same advisor, the same platform, the same investment approach. We don't bury that message. It's the headline. And this starts the process of integrating your clients into Absolute. But you have say over what goes in your letter. You get sight of what goes in the Absolute letter. We work together on those things. Now, the next 2 steps, sort of novation of clients and sort of reassurance calls, can go hand in hand. Once those letters have gone out to clients, you may need to pick up the phone and deal with those vulnerable clients first. But however, the novation process typically happens en masse. It's usually done via Origo or the platforms or the providers. We don't have to necessarily get individual confirmation from each client to move this across. They will get notified once the process is complete through the providers themselves, but this process will follow those 2 letters going out. It's clean. The clients don't necessarily have to do anything. They will just, again, keep the same platform, same investment solution, same advisor. It's just a different agency code, Absolute rather than your firm's. And again, interchangeable with when the novation happens or when the reassurance calls happen. But again, this is before any process kicks off. You want to reassure them that their day-to-day relationship is remaining with you as the advisor. It's a phone call. Do the human element. They're going to get a letter. It's going to be changed. Some of them will be anxious. But again, you've had these relationships with your clients for many, many years. I'm sure many of them will be very pleased. They'll understand, and they'll be very happy with your judgment as to which firm you've ultimately joined and sold for, and hopefully in your case it's Absolute. So once that's happened, typically you would get to the point in the journey, and this will vary client by client, but again, it's the first annual planning meeting. And again, by design, we want to have minimal change in terms of it's the same advisor. You've known the client for all those years. It's the same meeting style. If you see them in their house, then we want to continue that. If you see them on Zoom or Teams, again, keeping everything the same. In an ideal world, over the longer term, we'd like clients to come into the office and see all of the work that goes on behind the scenes. But it's the same cash flow modeling tool. It's the same cash flow plan that they've worked, the same objectives. The person that they know. We automate a valuation statement going out before the review meeting using our technology and our support providers. This keeps the client informed before the meeting, the ability to ask any questions. This is done in the Absolute brand. And I guess the key change at this point for any client is the integration or the benefit of them using the My Absolute app. This drives efficiency It puts absolute in their pocket. It's an always on service. This is where we drive a lot of the efficiency to do the client touch points. It's powered by Money Info. It provides them with net worth statement. They can see all of their assets and liabilities in one place. They can add open banking connectivity. If they so wish, they can add information on there that you can't see. It's their finances all in one place, always on. It's got secure messaging within it. It's encrypted, so there's no longer a requirement for you to send encrypted emails to clients with documentation. All of the communications go through this app. It's either on their phone or they do have a desktop use of this. Booking future annual planning meetings, whether that's on an annual basis, quarterly basis, 6-monthly basis. This is done within the app via a Calendly link. Again, making things more efficient. They pick a slot that suits them. There's no going back and forth on email. There's no time spent by the administrative team making calls to reach out for those clients. It's all integrated with Intelligent Office as to when those reminders need to go out through the app again. Those notifications for when those are upcoming. Again, it all happens a bit WhatsApp style. And then for anything that needs signing by providers, that is done within the app as well via DocuSign, all securely, all increases our efficiency, but also enhances the service versus other sort of client portals that are out there that Absolute, as a bigger, larger organization, have taken the time to invest in and using their economies of scale to make that work for you and your clients. We'll have a brief look at the app in action. It's Absolute branded. They can log on again using their phone. It's an always on service if they want to message you through the middle of the night because they're worried about something that's gone on in the news or IHT planning. They communicate through there. And if you're on holiday, obviously you will have access to that, but it will also has access via the paraplanning team and the support team. So they can message on your behalf if that transpires that that's the best approach to make. But again, this it hopefully improves the client experience, but a lot of it drives the efficiency of everything in the background. And following that first annual planning meeting, most planning meetings, as you will be aware, result in a no change outcome. I think the stats are about 86% of clients or annual planning meetings result in no change, depending on which report you read. But we automate this report through our AI service partner. That links into the AI meeting notes tool that we use, bringing through clients' own words, but all with human in the loop. So once that report has been processed, you top and tail it as the advisor. It goes out to the client. It confirms ongoing suitability and their confirmation of annual charges, and it goes through the app securely, encrypted, no longer needing to use an encrypted email service, which can be quite clunky or take the time to password protect a lot of documents. It goes, they get a notification, and they can ask you questions back through the app. You get a notification once they've read it. It closes the loop, ready for the next planning meeting, which again will be automated within the back office system and then automated again to remind them to book in that next meeting if you haven't done so already as part of the process. So if I was to summarize sort of the client's first year into a sort of single line, it's the same advisor, same advice, but hopefully better technology and less friction, making everything more efficient, allowing you to do that reassurance piece with clients and freeing up your time, hopefully to deal with more clients, but if not, make things a lot easier for you. So we've looked at now what the client's first year looks like. It's very high level, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of things that go on in the background for those things to happen. But now I want to just look at what would typically happen as you're in your first year as the advisor. And our mantra is carry on doing what you do best. There will be some process changes, and you'll need to get signed off from a compliance perspective to get competent advisor status under Absolute. But we're leaving you to very much focus on the things that touch the client, generate new business and client relationships, free up your time to do the things that you probably got into advice in the first place. You didn't get into advice to do RMAR returns, HR, compliance, things that are on your head, general elements of running the business day to day. Most financial planners love the client work, but would like to take away all of the bits that take away their time to do that. So what do we take off your plate? As I mentioned before, we do automated evaluation statements through the app. We have access to centralized power planning and admin support if you don't have those within your business already. And if you do, we'd like to take those on and ultimately embed those into Absolute as well. We have our AI meeting notes team, provider that feeds straight into power planning and ultimately then straight into any automated no change reports. And again, all of these communications coming through the one app, which allows that client experience to be enhanced. If you are retiring, we want to look at the handover journey. Now, this can be just as important as the first year. Year one is about embedding the client as part of Absolute, minimal change as possible, aligning to the operating model and the processes that we follow. But year two is ensuring that the advisor handover is done correctly and with empathy. Change of advisor is probably the biggest single risk of part of this process. It's the biggest change. We deal with human beings in our world, and people don't like change. And the person that they are familiar with, that they have dealt with over the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, all of a sudden that's changing. That's where the risk comes in. So we want to make sure the handover is done the right way. The ideal is that this is done face-to-face where possible. That new planner who is employed by Absolute joins your annual planning meeting. They kind of sit in the background. It's a soft introduction. They sit and listen to you and how you've done those meetings. But following that, you then sort of stay in the background, on hand to be communicated to and respond through the Absolute app. But then from the next review meeting, the new planner would lead. And again, it's all about reassurance. And I think this is where traditional consolidators get it wrong. They typically want the business owner or the original advisor gone within that first 12 months because it's cheaper that way. They don't have to pay two salaries. We'd rather do it controlled and do it the right way, the human way, to ensure that ultimately clients remain with the business long term and your legacy is protected for the future. And again, you can walk down the local village and the golf club and not have to avoid those clients because they've all of a sudden got a service which is not as good as they're used to, which you've built up over many, many years. So again, just sort of coming up and wrapping up, why is Absolute different? Well, we have an ongoing charge of 0.85%. That is purposefully not gone to 1% like the competition. We use our other sort of levers that we can in the value chain, bringing down other parts of what the client pays for, better platform pricing, better investment solutions to ultimately, under consumer duty, align fees where we can, but no surprise pricing in year one. We want to maintain independence. So where a solution that you've recommended stacks up on a price and performance basis, or the platform you're using is doing the job it needs to do for the client, we're not mandating any change. We want that continuity. Independence at scale is the challenge for Absolute, and we're hitting it head on. We're using technology to ensure that the solutions that are in place are monitored and good value for money and meet the needs of the client. But ultimately, we want to use the technology that enhances and elevates the client experience, but also makes how we deal with those clients and your staff more efficient to be able to provide an enhanced service or deal with more clients and close that advice gap. And typically we're designing a handover around the client and not what's best for the financials of the acquirer in that first year. We want as much continuity with the same planner, the same advisor, and then a defined, prolonged handover to a new advisor at that point in time. Thank you for joining. I hope you got use out of it. We sort of looked at the human element of what happens as part of your sort of client's first year when joining Absolute, but also you as the seller and you as the advisor. What happens over that first year and that second year? If you're interested in finding a little bit about whether your business is ready for sale, have a looking at our business exit readiness scorecard. Similarly, if you just want to have, a completely confidential conversation with myself, no commitments, no paperwork, or have a chat about what we've talked about today, you can scan either option 1 or option 2 on those and QR codes, and I'll be more than happy to have a chat with you. Thanks again for joining. Hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and I will hopefully speak to you soon.